welcome to a special Bruery Society Beers episode of Brutal Battle. Yeah, so this is the third of these, and like I said, I'm just going to keep doing these until I run out of beers from the brewery. And specifically, I get almost all of my beers through my society, through that Reserve Society. So much like I've been doing with the last two, well, the last two, but also first two episodes, with this one I'm going to introduce another little tidbit about the society. Well, actually, it's not as much about the society. It's more about the beers that I get through society. And once again, to reiterate, a lot of the beers, there are plenty of beers that the brewery does that are just available to people in the wild, I guess I'll call it. But with these societies, that's where the really special stuff comes into play. And that's part of the reason that I'm doing this, because I'm passionate about it, and because of the fact that I also want people to get an idea of the type of stuff that's available that they're doing. Because they're doing a lot of in-depth, complex, interesting stuff that they release some of that to other people, well, to the public, I should say, into the wild, as I was saying before. But a lot of it's for, Preservation Society, Reserve Society, and Hoarders Society. Hoarders Society, and I'll probably end up getting somewhat bitter about it at some point because they get all the most amazing sounding stuff. The Hoarders Society beers typically end up, when you read the labels, it sounds like this mashup of things that you're just like, whoa, like that's crazy. And you're like, man, I'd really like to try that. And then you find out, oh, that's Hoarders Society only. And that's actually one of the things that they've been doing that I'm kind of like, man, I kind of wish that they would stop doing this, because they're doing a thing where they will send emails where they're telling you what's available. And it's for the Reserve Society and the Hoarders Society in the exact same email. So you have to read the print to find out, oh, that's available to Reserve Society, or, oh, that's Hoarders Society only. I kind of wish they would keep those emails separate. I understand why they don't, because it's much less labor intensive to just put it out that way. But there are times where, like, I forget to look and I'm like, oh man, I should be able to buy that. I go onto the website and I'm like, oh no, I can't buy that. So here's an example of one of the Hoarders Society ones. There was one they just released recently called the Crumb Father, and that's for Hoarders Society only. And it's a coffee cake-inspired imperial stout aged in bourbon barrels with cinnamon, pecans, and vanilla. When I saw that, I was like, yes, please, I'll go for that. And then I went and looked, and I was like, oh, yeah, Hoarders Society only. Sorry. Even though a lot of the things I'm saying, like, there's some really complex, awesome things just for Hoarders Society, there are complex, really awesome things for both Preservation and Reserve Society. And here's an example. I just kind of want to talk a little bit about how a lot of the beers that you end up having available to you with these societies, like I was saying, you'll kind of look at and you'll be like, oh, that sounds really interesting. And one that I had actually maybe closing in on about a year ago now that I got through the society, I picked up one bottle of it because I was like, I don't know if this is going to be good or not, but it just sounds so interesting that I have to try it. And it was a beer called Curie Dragon. And this beer was a sour blonde ale aged in oak barrels with cucumbers, dragon fruit, kaffir lime leaf, lychee, and rambutan. And if people don't know what rambutan is, it's those little fruits that actually I think they kind of taste a little bit like lychee, but when they're not shelled, they're in like a pink shell that has like little, almost like large hairs kind of coming off of it. Look it up. You'll have seen it before and you'll be like, oh, that's what rambutan is. But those ingredients together sound crazy, and it was an amazingly good beer. It was very fruity. It was very refreshing. The cucumber in it was so nice and kept the whole thing just super mellow. It was a nice kind of counterbalance to the sourness of the sour blonde base. That beer was one where I was just like, I normally wouldn't try something like this, but I just had to know what it was like, and it was awesome. And I was kind of a little bit sad that I had only gotten one bottle. So the first beer I'm going to do for this episode, which is solo, I'm doing pretty much all these solo. I might have some where I don't, where Rebecca ends up showing up, but for now, it's going to be solo. So the first one I'm going to do, this is an interesting thing they did where they did a barrel-aged version of it, and then they did a sour version of it, which I believe is also barrel-aged. Well, let me check. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Yes. Well, not spirit barrel, but barrel. So when I had gotten just the barrel-aged version of it, that was one of the beers that's included, because that's one of the things with the society is you pay your membership due up front for the year, and then once you've paid that, that covers a certain number of bottles. And I know I've said this on one of the other episodes, but so throughout the year, whenever those beers are available, you'll just get a receipt that says, oh, this is in your allocations, and then it'll say charge $0 because it was included in your initial membership fee. So there was a barrel-aged version of this one, and it was called Last Slice. And it was a bourbon barrel-aged ale with, I believe, vanilla, lactose, graham crackers, and lime. And I think it was like lime zest, maybe. So the whole idea behind it was inspired by key lime pie. And I was like, I saw the email that I'm getting this beer, and I'm like, okay, I mean, that's cool. I'll give it a shot. I wouldn't have purchased that one on my own by any means, just because it sounds so weird, but I'm kind of glad I'm getting it so I can try it. Rebecca and I sat down one night, we cracked that sucker open, and we were both like, whoa, this is phenomenal. It had a nice sweetness to it. You could definitely get the bourbon barrel character. There was a lot of bourbon to it, but then which made it kind of like caramelly, but then you got that little bit of like graham cracker that was also coming off, maybe a little cinnamony, and then you were also getting the vanilla in there between the bourbon barrel and between the actual vanilla added. It had a creaminess with the lactose, and it had just this really nice, light, tangy, refreshing lime flavor all the way throughout, and you could easily see how it was supposed to be key lime pie, and it was gorgeous. It was so tasty, and I was just like, man, I'm so glad this was included in the allocations, because like I said, I never would have bought this on my own, and that's phenomenal. And then it was yet another one of those beers where I was like, man, I wish I had bought some more. So the first beer I'm tasting, yes, I'm finally getting the tasting one. This is the sour version of that, and when I saw this was available, I was like, okay, I will buy a bottle of that because the non-sour version was so good. So this one's supposed to be key lime pie, but sour version. It's called Meringue My Belle, and it is an American sour ale aged in oak barrels with lime, graham cracker, vanilla, and lactose added. And this is 8.4% alcohol. So I'm opening it actually on the table, so if you hear extra noise, I apologize. All right, let's pour this sucker. And this is in a 3.75 milliliter bottle, which, I believe I've already said on one of these episodes. I'm very, very happy they're starting to do more 3.75 milliliter bottles as well as 16-ounce cans, because for quite a while they were only doing 750 milliliter bottles, and that was just hard to handle with some of these beers, not just because of ABV. Actually, a lot of them, it was because of high ABV, but a bunch of it was just because they were so flavorful that you just can't drink a whole 750 of them, especially with sour beers, because the amount of phlegm buildup is crazy. So what does it look like? It's very honey looking. It actually looks as I swirl it, it's got some real legs to it. You would think it's going to be higher ABV than that 8.4. Can't see through it. It's very like yellow, almost a little brownish honey color. It really looks like thin honey, basically. There's no head to it whatsoever. It smells, it smells sugary. It smells kind of sweet. It smells kind of honey-like. I definitely get the lime, but there's also like a little bit of a lemon with it as well, which I believe is probably coming from the Sour Blonde base. I do smell wood, so I feel like that oak is definitely coming through, and it's smelling good. I like a nice like woody character with my beers. I'm not really smelling vanilla at the moment. It smells less sharp and sour than you would assume it would be, being a sour blonde ale. But I mainly just smell like the oakiness, that kind of like sweet honey, and that lime/lemon. I'm going to go in for a taste. Ooh. So it's more sour. Ooh. It's more sour than it smells, that's for sure. I just jumped all over my palate. So the first sip is almost all lemon lime sourness. Almost totally. So I'm going to have to take a few more sips just to get past the adjustment period for my taste buds. It's very sour driven. Although on my third sip, I'm starting to taste some of that oak coming through, which is really nice. I'm not getting vanilla or graham cracker at the moment. Yeah, so the sourness is way more sour than I would assume. So I know there's actual lime in this. I feel like maybe it should have been more like lime zest, and then the lime zest could have put in a little bit of bitterness to kind of balance out the sourness. It's starting to calm down a little bit as I keep drinking it. And I am getting a little bit of the graham cracker peeking through and a little bit of vanilla, but it's not super present. So I'm assuming that if it becomes even more so, it's going to take a little bit of time for it to really start developing. Because it is still, like, relatively cold. Oh, there we go. Okay. So that last sip right there, I got a creamy vanilla with a little bit of graham cracker. So now that lime, that lemony sour, that lime is starting to come down, and that that kind of creamy vanilla and the graham cracker is starting to build. That's starting to balance out more. I'm good. I might have to come back to that one because I'm doing 3 at the moment right now, and then I'll do the 4th one on its own because these are smaller bottles. So I'll come back to that one in a little bit to see if it's opened up more. But first assessment, it's not nearly as good, in my opinion, as the last slice, which was, once again, that just barrel-aged version of it. If they ever have that available again, I have to get that. That beer is something. When I was getting this one, the Meringue My Belle, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't really know what I'm going to be getting into with a sour version of that, and it would depend on how sour it is. And I think for me personally, I would like it to be significantly less sour because I think that would allow the vanilla and the graham cracker to shine a lot more. Well, and the oak as well. But with it being inspired by key lime pie, you want more of that vanilla and that graham cracker to come through than you do that oak. But those things would come through a lot more if it was kind of toned down on the sour. But like I said, I'm going to go back and try it again. So in the last episode, moving on, in the last episode, I did Black Tuesday, which was kind of like their big one, and then something that was kind of a derivation of a derivative of Black Tuesday. It had the same base with a bunch of extra stuff. So I'm going to do that kind of again right now, and this is the baby version of Black Tuesday, basically. It's a beer called So Happens It's Tuesday, and it's an imperial stout aged in bourbon barrels, just the same as Black Tuesday, but it's less ABV. It is 15% alcohol as opposed to almost 20% with Black Tuesday. Now, Rebecca and I have found that we prefer So Happens It's Tuesday over Black Tuesday just because the booziness is a lot less and you still get a lot of the same flavor. Actually, I mean, it is kind of like almost the exact same flavor. It's just less booziness. So it's more dessert-like. It's less hot because of the alcohol. So let's crack this open. This is also a 375 milliliter bottle, which I'm excited about because this is one that you could just do on your own at that size. Okay, so poured a little bit of that. Oh, gee, I wonder what this is going to look like. It looks like an Imperial Stout, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's just like super, super dark. I can see a little bit of like brown around the edges. There's a little bit of a head to it. Not much, actually, even though I poured it relatively agitated. Oh my gosh, there's like amazing legs on the side of the glass as I swirl that sucker, because it is just like, it's thick. Because of the high ABV, because of being 15%, it's just, yeah, it's syrupy. It just kind of takes its time coming back down off the side of the glass. I smell it. Ooh, man. I get a decent amount of vanilla in that nose. I get caramel. I get a little bit of raisin. I get vanilla. I definitely get a chocolate. Ooh, that smells really good. Ooh, man. Yeah, so this basically smells like Black Tuesday, but a lot less booze. I don't have like a burn kind of jumping into my nostrils like I do a lot of the time with Black Tuesday. Actually, I don't even smell all that much booze. This is 15%, but it doesn't smell it. Not at all. This smells really smooth, really kind of a beautiful beer. I'm going to go in for a taste. Ooh. Wow. Okay, so it is vanilla-y. That bourbon, the bourbon character is giving off a lot of vanilla with it. And I'm really, really, really digging that. It's like this really nice blend of vanilla and like a light milk chocolate. Oh, it's super smooth. It's like crazy smooth. I can really taste that bourbon starting to come through too. It's like vanilla, like the most prominent flavors are the vanilla and chocolate together, and then right under that in each sip, it's kind of like a caramel and bourbon booziness together, and then under that, a little bit of raisin under that at the very, very end, which lets you know it's a higher ABV beer. Now, I feel a little bit of a warming note. Like, I feel it warming me a little bit. But when I drink it, I just... But when I drink it, I just can't... But when I drink it, I just can't perceive the 15%. I mean, it's coming off as maybe like a 9 or... Well, maybe not a 9, because it's starting to build more now. Maybe like a 10. It's coming off like a 10, which is crazy. This beer is amazingly smooth. It is very flavorful. It is very tasty. This is like the perfect after-dinner beer. This is the nightcap beer that people dream of, in my opinion. Like I said, this is like the scaled-back version of Black Tuesday, and it is perfection for me, and I know Rebecca's basically said it's kind of perfection for her, too. Oh, my. Oh, that beer goes down way too easy. You can get in some serious trouble with that. And maybe I will. I don't know. We'll find out. Man, that's so good. Okay, so the next beer I'm going to do is in a 16-ounce can, but you can also get it in 750 milliliter bottles at the moment. They're not doing 375 milliliter for some reason. But this is it's basically Black So Happens It's Tuesday, but just one addition to it. It is So Happens It's Tuesday with coffee. So the reason I'm doing this is to kind of show you that they're also doing a So Happens It's Tuesday as the base and then doing some other stuff. And this is one of their more popular versions of that. They just add coffee. And it's coffee from Ryan Brothers Coffee, who I'm not familiar with. But, so it's just Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels with coffee added. And this is a little bit lower in ABV. It is 14.7%. And as I said, 16-ounce can, so here we go. Hear that satisfying pop. And let's see how much of the coffee we can perceive on this. I'm going to pour myself too much, because we're playing with high ABVs here, folks. I almost said fellas. No, not fellas. Folks. All right. Oh my gosh, it looks like an Imperial Stout. Imagine that. This has a lot more head to it as I poured it, and it's retaining. Yeah, and it's... Oh, now it's starting to go away a little quicker. But yeah, it had more of a head to it. It retained a little bit more. And looks the same, though, as it So Happens It's Tuesday. The smell, you can definitely tell there's coffee in there. but it's like a green. It's like a green coffee. It's not like a super roasty coffee. And that's the first thing I smell, and that's the main thing I smell. And see, now this is interesting, because sometimes with me and the additions of like coffee or like barrel aging with imperial stouts, sometimes it also gets this kind of odd banana note on the nose. And I feel like I get this very fleeting moment of a banana note on the nose, which is always just kind of weird to me. Maybe it's just a personal thing. I don't know. Lots of green coffee. Super green coffee, then it gives way to that vanilla that was in the regular So Happens It's Tuesday and the chocolate. Yep, that kind of caramel starts poking through as well. You can smell the bourbon. And actually, I think the coffee really masks that raisin, that little bit of a raisin character on the nose that you get in the regular version. Yeah, the coffee really takes that down. Okay, going in to try it. Whoa. Okay. Well. So, you can definitely get the coffee in there, and it definitely tastes like it's more of a green coffee, much like in the smell. But this tastes thinner. Like the mouthfeel's coming off thinner than the So Happens It's Tuesday, which I'm assuming is because of the addition of the coffee. There is a decent amount of coffee flavor to it, and then I am getting the chocolate, I am getting the vanilla, the bourbon, the caramel, all that stuff, but it's at a much lower level than what I get in the regular So Happens It's Tuesday. So I really like this, and I like the addition of the coffee, but like I said, like it feels like it thins it out, and it actually takes down significantly the vanilla and the chocolate and the caramel, which I really was digging in the regular So Happens It's Tuesday. So this is an instance of an addition, but I don't think it makes it better. I actually think the base is just better on its own, although this is very good. I like the coffee. I really like the coffee. Although I will say, much like I was saying in the nose, there's like no perception of any raisin notes. I don't really taste any of that either. But this is, once again, one of the ones where it doesn't taste like 14.7. It does taste more like, actually I'd say probably close to 11 or 12, just because the acridity of the coffee is actually making it so I can still perceive a decent-ish amount of the alcohol. But once again, not close to what it actually is. So, still pretty dangerous. Okay. Now, like I promised, I'm going to real quick jump right back to the Meringue My Belle and see if anything's happened now that it's warmed up a little bit more. I mean, it smells the same. Oh, yeah. So it's mellowed out. Now that it's warmed up a little bit more, it's mellowed out even more. The sourness is starting to be overtaken a little bit. Not significantly, but overtaken a little bit more by the graham cracker and the vanilla, and the lactose is showing up more now. It's starting to like make it a little bit creamier in the mouthfeel as it warms up. Yeah, that's getting better. Still not nearly as good as the last slice, but still quite good. All right, and moving on to the final beer of this episode, beer number 4. And this one is kind of crazy sounding. I know a lot of what I've already done is just like, here's the sour beer. A lot of times it's not like anything super crazy, although I know that I had the s'mores one and that Meringue My Belle, which, had some interesting stuff in it. But this next one, or this last one, really pulls out the stops when it sounds crazy. And it's stylistically, and it's with things added in. Typically with this membership, you're mainly getting things like barrel-aged stouts with some stuff added to it, and sours with some fruit. But every now and then you're getting some really interesting things, because they're always experimenting there at the brewery. So this one is called Birdie Birdie, and it is in collaboration with Green Creek Beer Company, the brewery and Green Creek Beer Company. It is a puncheon-aged mixed culture, dry-hopped, Saison-style Pilsner. Okay, let me reread that to you. Puncheon-aged mixed culture, dry-hopped, Saison-style Pilsner. Okay? Then added to it, Newton Pippin apple juice, bergamot orange zest, and pink Himalayan sea salt. Now, bergamot, actually it's funny because just this week, when I'm recording this, just this week, I looked up what bergamot was, not remembering that that's what's in this beer, because Rebecca and I were eating these French macarons, and one was bergamot flavored, and I'm like, this is supposed to be bergamot, I don't even know what that is, so let me look it up. So basically, bergamot is a type of orange that was kind of like a cross between a lime and a bitter orange, so that's what it is. So this beer sounds interesting. Let me see what the ABV is. ABV, it's got to be relatively low. Why can I not find the ABV on this? Oh, there it is. Right in front of my face. 7.6% alcohol. And it's in a 16-ounce can. So let's crack this sucker. Ooh. A little bit of foam coming out of the top. Which, you know, I shouldn't be too surprised with the mixed culture. The puncheon-aged mixed culture portion of it. Crap. Okay, I just made a mess. Well, let me pause. And I'm back. I just got that cleaned up. I had a mess. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I just started pouring the beer, and I guess I took my eye a little bit off it, and it just started kind of going everywhere. So anyway, I have the beer poured now. Let me break this down. It's very yellow in coloration. Pretty clear. Yeah, pretty clear. Can see through it. It's a decent little bit of head on the top, and it's mainly kind of small bubbles. Ooh, it's very, very citrusy. It's got like a little bit of a salinity on the end of the smell, which obviously would be from that pink Himalayan sea salt. Ooh. I'm trying to see if I can pick the apple out of it, but it mainly is just smelling very, very tart, citrusy. It definitely has a lot of tartness to it. It does finish very clean on the nose, too, so it's like this tart, crisp, clean end to the smell. There's almost something that smells, and maybe it's just my mind playing tricks on me, but something that almost smells a slight bit peppery. Yeah, it's kind of this weird pepper note, which, you know, maybe that has something to do with the Saison aspect of it, because it says dry hop Saison style Pilsner, so maybe that has something to do with it. When I'm drinking this, it's about 4 months in the can, and a little more than 4 months in the can. Well, I haven't started drinking it yet, but yeah, so that's a pretty good breakdown of what it smells like. And there also is a little bit of a funk on the nose, too. All right, I'm going to go in and try this. Okay. So there's definitely a very present tartness that hits you immediately and kind of goes around the edges of your tongue, but then it backs off kind of fast and kind of gives away to this very, this interesting combination of like a very light Pilsnery body to the beer in combination with a decent, like kind of medium-low bitterness that carries on there. This is interesting. And so that bitterness actually seems less like a hop bitterness and more like a kind of like, I guess it would be the bergamot orange peel bitterness. It kind of tastes like that. Yeah, so it's like, I'm assuming the citrus that I'm mainly getting has A, to do with the mixed culture fermentation, and B, the bergamot orange. But it comes off kind of lemon-like because of that, because of the level of tartness. It's very interesting. I also do slightly taste that apple juice. It's very, very, very slight, but I do taste it a little bit. And there is, on the finish, a little bit of a peppery note. So I'm not crazy. What I was smelling in there, that pepper, it's actually in the flavor, and it's just like this touch of it on the end of each sip. This is good. It's interesting because it's like, yeah, it comes at you like it's going to be like a really, like, salinity and tartness-driven goza when it first hits your tongue, and then it just, like, morphs and switches over to, like, a nice light Pilsner with, like, a decent hop bitterness and a little bit of that tartness and citrus still sticking around. This is a flavorful beer, yet a very easy beer. It's very easy to put down. And at, what did I say, 7.6%? It tastes like it's less than that. Especially with the viscosity of the beer, seems like it's maybe more around the 5 or less. Like, this kind of goes down like a very easy Pilsner or Goza. Yeah. That's good. I quite like that. So, now for my ranking of these on here, and then my overall ranking for the first 3 episodes of these brewery beers I've done. For this particular episode, I'm going to go, my number 4 beer is going to be the Meringue My Belle. While I do like it, I don't like it as much as the other ones. That's the one is the American Sour Ale aged in oak barrels with lime, graham cracker, vanilla, and lactose added. Then my number 3 is going to be the Birdie Birdie. Once again, punch-in aged mixed culture, dry hopped Saison-style Pilsner with Newton Pippin apple juice, bergamot orange zest, and pink Himalayan sea salt. Then my number 2 is going to be the So Happens It's Tuesday with Coffee, which is an imperial stout aged in bourbon barrels with coffee added. And my number 1 for this episode is the So Happens It's Tuesday imperial stout aged in bourbon barrels. So yes, just the stripped down version of the coffee one is my favorite of that. So let me go over the overall ranking for the 3 episodes I've done for the Bruery Society Beers. Goes like this. In last, I would have to put the Meringue My Belle. Not going to describe what that is, already went over it. The second to last would be the Cherry Glacier, which was the blended sour in wine barrels with cherries, lime, and ginger. Then it would be that Birdie Birdie, which we already talked about. Then it would be Curiosity, which is the imperial stout with lactose and dulce de leche in bourbon barrels and cinnamon whiskey barrels with cinnamon added. Then it's the PB and Jelly Thursday, which is the bourbon barrel aged imperial stout with peanut flour, boysenberries, and salt. Then it would be the So Happens It's Tuesday with Coffee. Then it would be the Oud Tart Reserve, which was the Flemish-style red ale aged in oak barrels. Then we have the number 5, so we're closing in on the top 5. My number 5 would be the 2015 Black Tuesday, which is a bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout, aged 4 years at that point when I'm having it. Number 4 is the Ada Boysenberry bourbon barrel-aged wheat wine with boysenberry and vanilla. Number 3, the S'more Bubbles sour stout and imperial stout, aged in bourbon barrels with marshmallow, cacao, graham cracker, and vanilla. Then my number 2 was one in this episode, the straight up So Happens It's Tuesday. And my number 1 thus far of these 3 episodes is the Wee Heavy Coconuts, which is a bourbon barrel-aged Scotch Wee Heavy with toasted coconut, walnuts, and cinnamon. There you have it, the full one. And thank you everyone for checking out these types of episodes. I really appreciate it. Please continue to do it. Spread the word, not just about these types of episodes, but all the episodes that we do with Brutal Battle. And hit us up, give us feedback. Just say hi, brutalbattlepodcast@gmail.com. But stay tuned for the next one, which will come out, I'm not sure when, but I'll have more interesting beers from the brewery. So thank you, and until next time, keep it brutal.
This has been a Nerd Circle podcast production.